Bro, stop holding her. Stop holding.
Mom. Yeah. Mom, I want to come home.
That's 27-year-old Denisha Montgomery. I'm about to tell you her story, and trigger warning, it includes SA and death.
We all went to the water park, and we was all drinking, and I don't know why everyone's mad at me. I don't know why. But they was being mean to me in the car, so I was like, just let me out of the car. But they wouldn't let me out of the car, and then all this happened. They was covering my mouth like this. They was doing that to me in the car.
Those are clips from a FaceTime call that she made to her mother on July 19th. She was telling her mother about a trip she had gone on that day to an amusement park. These are the 4 people she went with. This is PFC Brianna Frank. This was Denisha's roommate. Denisha went to the water park with these 4 individuals, and they were drinking. On the way home, they started being very aggressive towards her. She wanted out of the car, but they wouldn't let her out of the car. They then began punching on her, covering her mouth so she couldn't breathe, and left marks on her body as you saw in the video. She had no idea why any of this was happening.
Going to talk to CID tomorrow. I can't be here no more. I don't trust them. I don't trust my leadership. I don't want to be here with none of them no more.
CID is the Army's Criminal Investigation Detachment. Denisha stated she doesn't trust her leadership anymore, but she had good reason.
Last week, Frank fucking got raped, and they don't even care about.
Yes, you heard her correctly. PFC Brianna Frank had been SA'd the week prior, and she says her leadership didn't even care. She turned out to be right. Whenever she went to report this incident the next day, she was discouraged by her leadership from reporting it. So rather than holding these people accountable for assaulting her and beating her, her first sergeant, this guy, did nothing. All he did was separate Denisha from her roommate for 24 hours and then put them back together in the same room. And 21 days later, on August 9th, Denisha was found dead in that same room. So who killed Denisha? The Army is covering this death up, and we need to know why. This guy, Sergeant Luis Green Torres, wasn't even in the same unit as everybody else. Everyone else is in the 139th MP Company, and they were stationed at the time in Wiesbaden, Germany. But Sergeant Green had flown to Germany from Fort Lewis in Seattle, Washington, just to go beat up Denisha? That's suspicious. But there's more. 13 days after Denisha had been murdered, PFC LaCourtney Colvin made a Facebook post. In that Facebook post, he talked about how Denisha had pulled him over one night because Denisha was military police. You see this comment where PFC Colvin said, you know, this old girl who gave us that warning ticket, him and his friend had a synthetic marijuana on them called Blue Lotus, which is illegal in the Army. And he should have been arrested for being caught with, but instead he was given a warning. He was given a warning ticket. Turns out that when Denisha pulled over LaCourtney and found the Blue Lotus, the synthetic marijuana, her supervisor radioed and said, just let him go with a warning. And in the Army, nobody gets off with a warning for having drugs. 9 days after LaCourtney Colvin made this post, he too was found dead in his barracks room in Germany. If you dig deep enough, the question starts becoming, is there a Blue Lotus synthetic marijuana drug ring happening in Germany? Was Denisha Montgomery Smith and LaCourtney Colvin murdered to cover up that? Is that why Sergeant Green flew all the way from Fort Lewis to Germany? And who was the NCO who told Denisha to just give him a warning ticket? And why did her first sergeant and her commander not take care of Denisha and keep her safe from her attacker? Denisha deserves justice, and her family deserves answers. The Army has promised a thorough investigation, but it's very clear it's going to be anything but that. When the military came to tell Denisha's family, When the military came to tell Denisha's family that she had been found dead, they told her it was from suicide, that she had suffocated herself. But then later said that the autopsy is still ongoing and is under investigation. So then how did you already draw these pre-conclusions? And it's funny you mentioned suffocation when in the video she talked about they were covering her mouth and not letting her breathe in the car 21 days prior to her death. I believe the FBI should be taking over this investigation. The Army cannot be trusted to investigate itself, especially given all the other circumstances surrounding this incident. Join me in demanding justice